Over 120 ballistic missiles, 30 cruise missiles, and 170 kamikaze drones were launched at Israel this April. Commenting on this massive attack, the spokesperson of Israeli Defense Forces Daniel Hagari stated that 99% of the threats launched towards Israeli territory were intercepted. How did Israel manage to achieve such astounding results? How much did it cost for the Allies to repel the Iranian Shaheds? And what role does the Russian-Ukrainian war play in shaping our perspectives on a kamikaze drone? Want to hear the answers? Then give us a thumbs up and let's dive in. Journalists have created a reputation of a wonder weapon for the Israeli Iron Dome. Just recall the spectacular footage of the dome intercepting Hamas missiles that spread across the globe. Naturally, the IDF keeps things vague by never disclosing the true capabilities of the renowned air defense system. What's known, though, is that Iron Dome can intercept all types of non-ballistic missiles, drones, and even rocket-assisted and mortar projectiles launched from a distance of 2.5 to 43 miles. Iron Dome, along with its naval version Sea Dome, are aimed to intercept targets at altitudes up to 3,300 feet. In addition to 40 Iron Dome launchers, Israel's air defense also relies on at least 32 Patriot launchers and an unknown number of FIM-92 Stingers. Seems like a lot, right? However, the whole might of the Israeli Air Defense Forces intercepted only 2/3 of Iranian targets. The rest were intercepted by allies, and that's where the most interesting part starts. A representative of the US Department of Defense confirmed it was their forces in the region that shot down Iranian drones. 2 squadrons of F-15E Strike Eagles of the US Air Force destroyed at least 70 drones. Some accounts claim that F-16 fighters of the Israeli Air Force also took part in countering the attack. The Allies spent a king's ransom to repel this massive attack. The involvement of at least 2 squadrons of fighters alone costs a fortune. The cheapest air-to-air missile cost $150,000 at the very least, and some defense missiles in service with the US Armed Forces cost up to $2 million per unit. Moreover, sometimes 2 or 3 missiles are launched at each target to ensure the necessary outcome. What was the overall cost? You may want to sit down for this. According to Reem Aminowak, the top financial advisor to the IDF Chief of Staff, the 2-hour-long battle led by Israel and its allies had a $1.1 billion price tag. That's $500 million per hour. Wow. If you were as horrified by those numbers as we are, share your thoughts in the comments, or better yet, like this video. In return for that, we will explain what kind of drones forced the Allies to cough up so much money. According to Iranian state media, among the drones used in the April 13 attack were the Shahed 136 and Shahed 131. The video from the Israeli Defense Forces press service confirms this. Shahed's distinctive design is hard to miss. These drones got teased nicknames such as lawnmower and moped because of the sound of their 2-cylinder carburetor engines. Speaking of which, this engine is probably the most expensive part of the Kamikaze. Iranian Shahed has wooden propellers, and their hulls are made of synthetic resin-bonded paper. These materials make the construction dirt cheap. Despite the seemingly inexpensive construction materials, there's yet another cost-saving secret about the Shahed. According to the analysis of debris from Iranian drones conducted by the Independent Commission of Ukraine, nearly every detail has American or European origins. Take for instance the Shahed communication chip, manufactured by Analog Devices Inc. in Massachusetts. A British electronics distributor in Hong Kong sells those for $339 through its website. More so, the chip is available in 11 other Asian countries. Microcontrollers used in Shaheds are manufactured by Texas Instruments Inc., based in Dallas, and cost just $37 each. Therefore, Iranians spend $50,000 tops per Shahed due to the low costs and availability of components. Yet a cruise missile that can fly up to 1,500 miles costs several $1 million per unit. Iranian Shahed is 11.5 feet long, weighs up to 440 pounds, and not unlike a cruise missile, is also capable of traveling a distance of 1,000 miles and more at a speed of about 100 miles per hour. Shahed's warhead weighs between 20 and 90 pounds. Iranians can launch drones from a platform. In this case, they use a solid fuel rocket booster which operates for 2 to 3 seconds and helps the Kamikaze to take off. Afterwards, the drone flies on its own. There's one more way to launch a drone. Some call it the cowboy way. The Kamikaze sets off from the launch rail, mounted on the truck, with the engine already running. The truck needs to reach a certain speed to launch a Shahed and provide it with the needed momentum. If these cheap, noisy, and slow drones can be shot down by billion-dollar systems, then Iran will clearly gain a huge advantage in regular attacks. Is there an alternative approach? Well, the Ukrainian military definitely has something to say on the subject. Every month, Ukrainian air defense forces shoot down 500 to 600 Shahed drones. But Ukraine has no access to Iron Dome or F-15 fighters. Certain politicians on both sides of the Atlantic are still busy carving out careers out of the negotiations around the transfer of F-16s to Ukraine. With no other options available, the Ukrainian Air Force had to learn the hard way by trial and error. The experience of the Russian-Ukrainian war shows that German self-propelled anti-aircraft gun Gepard is the best suitable weapon against kamikaze drones. Precisely this one. If you, like me, can't pronounce the name, give us a thumbs up. These models were developed in the distant 1963. Now, the Ukrainian army uses them as a replacement for the equally ancient Soviet anti-aircraft systems ZSU-23-4 Shilka and 2K-22 Tunguska, which were in service with the Ukrainian army but had already exhausted their resources. Funny thing is, a short line of 2 paired Oerlikon Gepard guns costs only a few $100s. That's often more than enough to turn a swarm of Shaheds into a pile of scrap. However, the situation is not as simple as it might seem. Michael Kaufman, senior research scientist at the Carnegie Endowment's Analytical Center, stated that old anti-aircraft installations are part of a complex network for detecting and tracking approaching drones. The system consists of thousands of mobile phones placed at 6-foot poles across the country. They pick up the noise of kamikaze engines, allowing anti-aircraft artillery units to determine the direction of the attack. General James Hecker, the commander of the United States Air Forces in Europe, gave high praise to this technique in a recent interview with the Wall Street Journal. However, there's another problem, as if we didn't have enough of those already. These anti-aircraft systems have long been out of production. The Bundeswehr, for instance, stopped using Gepards in 2010. That's why Berlin was able to send only 50 Gepards to Ukraine. Suffice to say, this is a minuscule number. Therefore, the Ukrainians are forced to hunt drones with the Maxim and the DSHK 1938 machine guns. The same guns were used during the Second World War. But wait, there's more. There's footage of the Ukrainian trainer aircraft Yakovlev Yak-52 chasing UAV. The second crew member shot the drone using small arms fire. That's World War I era tactics. However, it's still unknown whether it will be used against Shaheds. In addition to Shaheds wreaking havoc in the rear, the Ukrainian army has to defend against kamikaze attacks on the front lines and in the near-front zone. This requires a whole range of new tactics and means of defense. The IDF and the US Army have not experienced such confrontation yet, but it is not excluded that it will be soon. And this could be a real hell for the military. On the front lines, within a radius of 6 miles, over 100 Russian and Ukrainian drones can operate simultaneously. Both sides are using first-person view drones. The most reliable way to destroy a drone filled with explosives is through electronic warfare systems. Ukrainian drone operator reports that his brigade detects 70 to 90 FPV drones per day, but is unable to bring them all down. Firstly, EW operators aren't always able to tell friend from foe. Secondly, the Russians develop drones that operate in a wide frequency range. Such targets prove challenging for the Ukrainian EW operators. Thirdly, EW systems are quite an expensive way to combat FPV drones. Therefore, soldiers on the battlefield have to rely mainly on small arms fire. Soldiers of NATO army use shotguns against FPV-type targets. Shotgun blasts reliably sweep such drones off the skies. Meanwhile, the US Army ordered the Coyote Block II interceptor systems from Raytheon. The system consists of numerous small winged missiles launched from containers and controlled by an operator from the ground. Those missiles reach speeds of up to 125 miles per hour and can swarm and attack enemy UAVs. FPV kamikaze drones turn the gray zone into a transparent one. Any moving vehicles or soldiers in the gray zone immediately become sitting ducks. Offensive or evacuation operations turn into one-way tickets to the afterlife. So a new type of kamikaze has recently emerged, the interceptor drone, which ram the enemy's drone. However, there is still little data to assess the effectiveness of such combat. Kamikaze drones remain a danger even dozens of miles from the front line. Recently, loitering ammunition attacks have become far more frequent. The Russians mainly use the Zala Lancet loitering ammunition. It has already destroyed hundreds of military equipment units. The Lancet is a collective name for a whole drone model line produced by the Russian company Zala Aero. The new version of the 35-pound Lancet 3M is capable of launching attacks 40 to 45 miles behind the front line. A kamikaze drone usually aims at stationary targets, but tanks, other armored vehicles, anti-aircraft systems, and even airplanes can also become its victims. Lancets are already credited with hitting Ukrainian MiG-29 and Su-25 aircraft at the Dovinci Air Base. The kamikaze drone is launched into the sky using a special catapult, after which it locates its target with a camera, then guides and dives down at speeds of up to 180 miles per hour. Lancet 3M is a difficult target for anti-aircraft weapon systems. Ukrainian 9K-33 OSA and 9K-35 Strela 10 SAM systems are powerless against it. Within the visual range, these drones can only be shot down from ambushes with heavy machine guns and anti-aircraft guns. So the simplest and most effective countermeasures that keep the real equipment safe for now are the decoys. Over the past few months, kamikaze drones have truly revolutionized warfare. While the world pondered the ethics of using kamikaze drones, Iran and Russia stubbornly developed this industry. And from equipment for special forces only, these soulless killers have become weapons of mass deployment. How will kamikaze drones affect future military conflicts? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments.